It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
The countdown clock is always so dramatic, and I always feel like I'm falsely building anticipation because at the end of it, yeah, it's just me. It's Car Con Carne. I'm James Van Alstyne. The show is sponsored tonight by C&H Financial Services, also by our friends at Siren Records McHenry. Coming up here on Car Con Carne, well, it's episode 588. We are inching ever closer to episode 600. Soon enough, probably episode 600, Car Con Carne will return to the car of Car Con Carne. And I'll keep doing episodes like this. My plan is to get back in the car, visit local restaurants, have guests join me in the car, fully vaccinated guests join me in the car, but also use this technology to be able to interview artists, interesting people who I wouldn't be able to get in my car, people from out of town, people who otherwise just can't get to my car. So it'll be kind of a two-pronged approach. I'll keep doing these video remote interviews, and I'll also do stuff in the car. Coming up tomorrow night on Car Con Carne, it is the return of the band Marina City. Next week, television actor Kenny Johnson. He's been in a million different things. Musician Justice Hill will be joining us next week, and Blue Island Brewery. We'll check in with them. It's always important to support our craft brewing community, which is kind of like supporting the independent music community. And when you talk about supporting independent music, my God, is there a label more exciting, more enduring than PRAVDA Records? Kenn Goodman, the man behind PRAVDA Records, joins me tonight. And Ken, I was saying right before we went live, this is long overdue. I'm so glad to have the chance to talk about PRAVDA Records tonight.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I've been watching your show for forever, and it was great that you asked me on.
There's so much to get to, and I guess we'll start current and work our way backward. Most recently, you put out the Josh Caterer Hideout Sessions record on vinyl. Is there a renewed interest in physical music, or am I just projecting my own interest on the general public?
Well, I think there's a huge interest in physical music. We sell CDs still, and we sell vinyl. And people, like in the last year, obviously have been at home, and they're going old school, and they're listening to records, and they're listening to CDs. They're at home on the couch, listening to music. So for the music industry, people, it's been kind of booming in a sort of a weird way. I've talked to people at record stores or doing great business. People are now able to go into record stores, browse the shelves like they used to, bring home records. And since they can't go out, see bands, they can't go out and do anything, they listen to records and eat pizza or something. You know, it's fantastic. As far as what's been happening with records, we've been like shipping out more records than we ever have shipped out. That's
amazing. And that's kind of what I expected, because what you just described, the buying records and eating pizza, that's been my past 13 months. That's all I've done. And it's sat right here. That's
my past 35 years.
But I mean, for a while there, I mean, physical music seemed to be in dire straits. I mean, licensing was where label revenue was coming from, but it's nice to kind of refine or reacquaint yourself with this other positive revenue stream.
Yeah,
it was dormant for a bit.
Exactly. It's been like rejuvenated, where like you can sell records again and get back to that source of income for the label. Like you said before, it was like, okay, you make a little bit of money streaming and all this, the new technology, which is great. You know, I like it, but the actual physical sales were waning for years and years prior to this. And now it's like, oh, everyone's doing vinyl, everyone's doing, you know, special editions, and we're doing gatefold sleeves. We're doing 160 gram vinyl. It's just really fun again.
It is. And just being stuck at home for the past 13 months, being able to have this stuff come to my door or go to a record store. And the Josh Caterer record, it's a gorgeous, like you said, gatefold cover, and those 160 gram records, they feel substantive. When you pull those out of the sleeve, they feel like you have something meaningful in your hand.
It's a heavy product. It's like a really massive, you know, because the record's thick, the gatefold is thick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not flimsy, and it's like got all these pictures and information in it, and a download card, so you can download it. But you put it on and you look at the sleeve and you take it all in as like a experience, like it's like it was in the 1970s.
Yeah, what is old is new again. You are a Chicago label, but you haven't defined yourself by Chicago artists. You've had plenty of artists who have not been local. Josh Caterer is local. And I guess that leads to my overarching thought or question. PRAVDA Records hasn't been narrowly defined like some of the other labels we've seen through the years. I know if I pick up a Bloodshot record, I kind of know exactly what that sound's going to be. You're more, I guess it's just about good music, right? I mean, it's not really one, you haven't pigeonholed yourself into one type of product.
No, I mean, that would be boring to me. I mean, my musical, life has been all over the map, and my passions for music are all over the map. And I don't want to be bored. I don't want to have every record sound alike. So I take every band individually and take it on for what it is. If it's like a soul record, and I'm into it, and I'll do that. If it's a experimental band like Cheer Accident, I'll be like, oh, I love this. I have a wide range of music that I love, and I don't want to just do one thing, because my whole life, I started out, playing jazz, but I like, indie rock. I like soul music, like deep cuts. I like experimental music. I mean, there's so much, fascinating music out there that I just take, like I said, individually, I take it on, and we market it for what it is. And it sometimes, is different from other labels that have a sound, but I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to do each artist and each record as its own thing, and make it work.
Since the beginning of PRAVDA Records, we've seen plenty of other independent labels rise to varying degrees of success. Some to great success. A lot of those labels are no longer with us. PRAVDA is still here. PRAVDA is still pushing out product. PRAVDA is fulfilling mail orders. What is it? Is it the product? Is it stubbornness? Is it tenacity? Why are you still here, Kenn Goodman?
I don't know. It's wild. I don't know. I started the label when I was 22 years old. I was very ambitious, and I was like, I'm gonna start this label and sign bands. And so I was a 22-year-old record executive trying to figure out, how to do it. And it keeps evolving, and I'm still excited about it. I'm still passionate about it. And I really like the bands on the label for the most part. I really enjoy working with these artists and working with these bands, and nurturing the records so we can figure out how to market them. And it's just really great that a lot of time has elapsed. I'm like, oh, I'm still excited, and I'm still discovering new bands. Bands are coming to me. I'm always searching for bands. I'm on the road a lot, and I discover bands, and then they have friends, and they have friends come to me. So it's like very exciting right now. There's so many good bands. A lot of people say, oh, rock and roll is dead, or all this stuff. But I listen to a lot of stuff. On Sirius Radio or whatever. I'm like, there's so many great.
That's just it.
Bands now. And there always is. You just got to find it. I mean,
that's it. I have the same problem. I roll my eyes every time I hear that. Rock is dead. There's nothing good. Music was so much better back in whatever. I think, and I've beat this point to death, but I really think the issue is just curation. People don't know where to find the good stuff.
Yeah,
it's harder in this Wild West where you have access to everything and there are no rules. It's harder to drill down and find the stuff you're into.
Between Spotify and Sirius and Apple, and you can find it. But I think the problem is, at least when you get older, a lot of people stop listening to music and they keep going back to what they listened to in high school and college, and they're like, just keep going back to that. Oh, I love Led Zeppelin and the Doors and Fleetwood Mac, and they're all that stuff. They can't go beyond that when you get older, and because it's harder to discover new music, and you get stuck of like, oh, I'm listening to classic rock that I listened to when I was a freshman in college. So it's hard to get to those people and get them to discover all the great music that is out there, both on indie labels and major labels, and bands putting out their own stuff.
Sure.
There's so much good stuff, and like I like world music. I like jazz. I like classical music. So there's so much always out there that is great. You just gotta weed through the stuff that's not great and find it.
And this makes me wonder how, first of all, is there a formal submission process? Because I have a lot of musicians who watch and listen to the show. Is there a formal submission process? And beyond that, how many submissions would you say you get in a year at Pravda?
We don't have a formal form or process. No, we don't. But we do get a lot of submissions via emails. Bands will send us all kinds of stuff, mostly links to their music on SoundCloud or their EPKs or this, and the way people send stuff now, it's all digital. We used to get like mail, envelopes in the mail of their press kits and CDs and tapes, and we don't get those too much anymore. But we just get flooded with emails from all over the world, because why not? You can be everywhere, and you send an email to labels. But it's not a formal process. It's just like tons of emails from bands looking for record deals for some reason. And very rarely is that how we sign bands. I mean, it has happened where it just gets discovered that way. It has happened, and I listen. Me and other people here, I listen to everything almost that I get, because I'm curious. And there are companies and lawyers that send us stuff, and third-party people, and submission, all these managers and that send stuff, which is fine. And we, like I said, I'm curious, so I listen to it. But we don't answer everybody, because we just get unsolicited submissions on a daily basis. But occasionally we get something. Wow, it's like, that's kind of really great, and can we do something with that? Can we can we market it? Is it a good business decision? It all depends on a lot of factors, and we can only do so much with our resources.
Sure.
And release, a certain amount of records per year.
I appreciate that rush when you do find that diamond in the rough, when you do find that thing in the stack. I mean, just hosting local music shows on my end since like 95, you sift through a lot of stuff, but every now and then you stumble upon something. You're like, where did this come from? Who are you? How did you end up in my life? And hooray. You keep chasing that high. Like, I know there are more of those out there. I'm going to find them. Yeah.
And it could come from anywhere. Like we've got several bands that are just like wonderful bands from Iowa. We have bands from Austin, Texas. We have bands early on in the days of the label. We had a fantastic band from Lincoln, Nebraska called 13 Nightmares. It was like this really intense, great kind of grungy band. And we have bands from right now. We have a band we just released from Belgrade in Serbia called The Red Step, and it's like a really intense band. It's one guy from the Blackheart Procession, which is kind of an underground band. And, there's this underground music scene in Belgrade. And so we tap into stuff from all, like you said, all over the world. We don't just focus on Chicago bands, but I love Chicago bands. We have a lot. Flat Five, Josh. So there's no specific place where we look for bands.
And you put out the Matt Wilson album.
Yeah, he's from Minneapolis. We had a lot of bands from Minneapolis. Matt Wilson was from Trip Shakespeare. He's just an amazing songwriter.
I was thinking, when I saw you put out the Matt Wilson record, I thought, and I was trying to think, no, Pravda didn't put out Trip Shakespeare. That was Twin Tone. But then I remembered, oh no, Pravda did have something to do with Trip Shakespeare back in the day. They're on one of the K-Tel comps.
Yeah, we put out 3 volumes of tribute to K-Tel compilations, and we yeah, there you go. And we searched the country for bands to do 70s one-hit wonder songs, and Trip Shakespeare had this great version of Go All the Way that we loved. And, Trip Shakespeare always came to Chicago. I used to see him at the Cubby Bear, and Matt and Dan Wilson. And Dan Wilson went on to be this, like, superstar songwriter.
Right.
Like, big time. And so, yeah, it's like it all comes around. Like, you work with a band in, 1994, then, like, 2020, he has a solo record that's really great. And, we rediscover each other and put out his record 20 years later or whatever. So that's what's fun about it. Like, the people you meet early on, they always come around and have another project or something going on that, is ongoing, that you can still work with the same people.
And there's a lesson for people navigating through the music industry. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't burn bridges.
Yeah. You'll see the same people down the road. They'll be there 2 decades later.
Yeah, you're going to be working with the same people 25 years later.
It's so true.
The same thing. Like, there's certain people that I've been working with, like, since 1990. It's great.
I love it. Let's talk about the K-Tel comps, the K-Tel tributes. I held them up. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see, but these are treasured CDs in my library. Even as I thinned the CD herd, my CD collection, these are, I think I've had this since it came out. The jewel case is busted, but these are delightful. And I think these were defining moments for Pravda.
Yeah, those were our biggest sellers at the time. We started out with 20 explosive dynamic super smash hit explosions, 1990, where we got the Smashing Pumpkins to do a track.
Jackie Blue.
Yeah, before they blew up. Billy Corgan was working at a record store on Broadway, and our offices were on Southport.
Right.
And I'm like, we should have the Smashing Pumpkins, do a song. And I basically just walked over to the record store he was working at. He was just behind the counter. I said, you guys want to do a song? He's like, yeah, sure. Anyway, that's how that deal went down. And then, we got, Material Issue.
The Slugs, Hooked on a Feeling. The Slugs were yours. Slugs were a Pravda band.
Feeling is a classic. And put together 20 tracks of 70s one-hit wonders redone by bands from all over the country. And it did great. We had it on vinyl, we had it on CD, and we had it on cassette. And at the time, we also had the Pravda record store outlet, and that was at the Metro on Clark Street. And we were just selling gobs of them out of there.
I remember that. Will you reissue again some of this stuff? Because it's all sold out and out of print, right? Well,
we have some left on CD. The vinyl is out of print. We have boxes of cassettes, but there happen to be some licensing issues with Smashing Pumpkins, legal issues that were problematic after a while, where we can't do any more vinyl on it. So no.
In short, no, that will not happen.
It won't happen. But the second and third version, Star Power and 20 more, are less problematic. But yeah, those are still in print, actually, on CD. And volume 2 is still in print on cassette.
The red meat version of "I'm Not in Love."
Yeah, it's
Oh man,
beautiful. It's so beautiful.
such great stuff. I think the first Pravda record I heard, I was doing college radio. I think the first Pravda song I ever played on the radio was "Clock That Won't Stop" by the Slugs. I probably told Doug Julin that a million times.
What college station were you at?
This was KJHK in Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh, I love Lawrence, Kansas. That was a great college music town. You got the the Embarrassment.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yes. There was so many bands that the Bottleneck Club there was the hub of indie music. But yeah, the Slugs record is a very early Pravda release that we did on vinyl and cassette, and it had some pop gems on it. Yeah.
Is Doug Julin a songwriting genius?
Yes. He's one of my best friends, and yeah, he's still writing great songs with Sunshine Boys.
Yeah.
He plays in Poi Dog Pondering. He plays with me in Expo 70. I mean, he's just always doing a lot of stuff.
Also one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Very funny in a very funny way.
So through the years, I mean, we can't get into every artist you've put out or released product from, but was there one or two who, when you finally heard the finished recording, when the record was basically turned in, that just kind of took your breath away and you thought, oh man, this is beyond my wildest dreams?
There was a lot of them like that. Early on, we put out a record by Green that I thought was a masterpiece. Elaine McKenzie back in, I don't know what year that was, 89, maybe 87. I thought like we had a masterpiece in that record. I think the Matt Wilson record is a pop masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And we have hundreds of releases, so I can't pinpoint everything. But there were moments where, like, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the first Diplomats, A Solid Sound. I think is a soul master. It's a soul masterpiece of a record that we put out, and it still has these classic songs like Soul Connection that it's used in films, all the time, because it's got such a great vibe and a great production that we had done in London. So, those moments are great when you get this, and sometimes you're disappointed. Like, why doesn't the rest of the world think this is the best record ever made in the history of music? But
I've thought that about a lot of your releases. In the 90s, I don't understand why Boom Hank wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's our classic, like, indie rock record.
And it's so in the moment. It was so in line with the best stuff that was being put out at the time. It just, I felt like that one had legs, but somehow it just never took off.
It didn't take off, and but it's still out there. I mean, that's the thing about these records and Spotify and stuff like this, that like our catalog is available, on these platforms now, where they can be rediscovered, and you don't have to go out and find a CD or cassette. Or you just go online and you're like, oh, this record from 1995 was really good. Yeah. So I mean, it's all archived, it's all out there, and every once in a while, you get some gratitude. From people that rediscover it or tell you that they loved it back then. So it's all out there. And, you never know what's going to happen with an old record. We've had resurgences of records also that, is gratifying.
I'm waiting for the Wake Ooloo resurgence.
Well, that one, I mean, those three records that by Wake Ooloo, which is Glenn Mercer from the Feelies band, and his solo record, are all, to me, like great Feelies records.
Yes.
They really have that weird vibe the Feelies have, but a little different. But it's Glenn Mercer and Dave Weckerman from the Feelies, doing what they do, which people love, and that actually did really well for us.
I love that stuff. And did I see correctly? You're putting out Steve Dawson's next record?
Yes, the next record is this. Really, we already got the CDs in stock. Coming out in July. It's the Steve Dawson record. He's from Dolly Varden, an amazing songwriter.
Amazing songwriter.
In Chicago talent. And yeah, that's coming up in July. The first single actually comes out in 2 or 3 weeks.
So as the world is making tentative steps to open back up, as people are getting vaccinated, this has got to be an exciting time for you. You can go see and support music. Hopefully later this year.
I mean, hopefully. I mean, who knows? I mean, people are starting to play outdoor shows and patios, and I don't think anyone's indie artists are booking their club tours yet because no one knows which clubs can actually exist this summer. But we're hopeful. Everyone's getting vaccinated, and everyone, like, we put out that Matt Wilson record last March. It came out the day everything shut down. The record release show was a sold out show at a Minneapolis theater. Of course, it was canceled. And we had in stores at record stores all over Minneapolis. But between the pandemic and the George Floyd events, Minneapolis was, hopeless for doing anything. And then his whole national tour dates were immediately all canceled, one after the other. That came out that week in March, that everything went to shit.
So do you just relaunch then? I mean, do you treat it like a soft opening?
No, because it's still closed. I'm
saying down the road, do you kind of kickstart everything like it's a new release? How do you do that strategically?
You can't do that a year later. What we did was just figure out how to sell a lot of mail orders online and how to have him perform online. His record release party was online, and he's done a lot of. Right now, he's doing every other week, performing in his basement, doing these shows that are become very popular and actually have sold records. But yeah, we just figure out what we can do, which is online concerts or streaming, and we're promoting mail order business.
Yeah. So, okay, we should mention the website because the web store is there, and people who are watching or listening should get their hands on some records while we're talking about this, or CDs. Yeah,
we have all the stuff. CD you can even download. PRAVDAmusic.com is our official website, and you can preview stuff, listen to stuff, buy stuff, download stuff. You can get it all on Discogs also.
Get your hands on that handsome new Josh Caterer record.
Yeah, beautiful record.
See, I knew he was going to move on to great things after he did the theme song to my podcast. I knew that it was all just going to be a big deal after that.
After he did that, yeah, it was
clear.
It was clear that his future was set.
In fact, I'm going to take credit for his success on PRAVDA Records because of the theme song to Car Con Carne.
Yeah,
not a stretch.
I think we should pay you some money.
That's exactly right. I agree, Kenn Goodman. So PRAVDA Records carries on. Before I let you go, as you look back on literal decades of running this label, literal decades of putting out all this cool music, are there one or two high points or moments that kept you in the game, that made you think, this is why I do what I do?
There's more than one or two, but it could be when I brought Tiny Tim over to my parents' house for dinner. I mean, we had a sub label called Bug House, and we released all these outsider artists called, like Tiny Tim, who I met in a gas station in Iowa. Hazel Adkins, who Cordell Jackson and the legendary Stardust Cowboy. So that sub-label was really fun. We recorded these artists live at Chicago clubs, and it was the Live in Chicago series. So when I brought Tiny Tim to Chicago for his show, which was now called Martyrs, but back then it was called Quicksilver, we recorded him live at the gig. But I picked him up at the airport. He was coming from Australia, and my parents were like, "Oh, bring him over." So I brought Tiny Tim to my parents' house in Skokie for a nice dinner, and Tiny Tim was kind of hitting on my mom and kind of serenading her with his ukulele at the dinner table, which my dad thought was great and was photographing and filming, so like I say that moment was kind of a classic moment in, record producing history. And just hanging out with Tiny Tim for like 4 days and was beautiful and very surreal. But
and next thing you know, you're having pita in with your parents and Tiny Tim for dinner, and everything's.
Oh no, my mom cooked him a beautiful pasta dinner. He's a vegetarian, and he came to my parents' house, and he drank like a 12-pack of Heineken, and then ate my mom's pasta, and then, like I said, was hitting on my mom in a very beautiful way.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's stuff you don't forget.
Look, Mr. Goodman, I'm an impotent troubadour. Don't worry about me. But that's what he told me. But he was still like very aggressive, not aggressively, but interestingly into my mom.
Okay. All right. So, all right, we covered where to get the stuff. We can look out this summer for that Steve Dawson release on PRAVDA. The Matt Wilson is newish. Then there are bands like the Imperial Sound, the Red Step, who you mentioned. There's the Caterer record. There's just so much. It's a treasure trove, Kenn Goodman. PRAVDA Records.
Thank you for mentioning all these records that hopefully people will love. I love them.
Well, I mean, to a point you made at the beginning of our conversation, and people are ordering records. They're supporting music. This is, since we're not going out to see music, we're supporting. We're ordering it in.
And people are. It's been really really wonderful how people are supporting the bands. They're donating. A lot of bands, people are donating money to the bands, but buying their records mainly and their merchandise is really the best way to support these bands. Buy their records, their CDs, their T-shirts, all this stuff to keep them going until they can play, go back on tour and play gigs and interact with humans is the goal. But for now, sit on the couch, eat a pizza, and listen to their records.
Sold. That's my routine. All right, Kenn Goodman, stay right there. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening.